Thanks for visiting the patient and the weather today. I'm meteorologist Al Peterlin. I'd like to talk about the weather health risk for January 14th, 2026. We do keep additional graphics available at tpatw.com, and we do have that storefront, Patient Weather, on Amazon. Amazon purchases made through our Patient Weather storefront do support the activities of Patient Weather. Looking at the surface map for Wednesday, we can see that we have high pressure, cold high pressure, forcing its way all the way through the middle of the country. A large and active cold front, dual cold front that is, hanging from upstate New York across Harrisburg all the way down to Tallahassee in Florida. Looking at our vitality index, which is a measure of all of those changes can impact human health, and you can see we have some kind of activity stretching all across the east from the plains all the way to the Atlantic coast. Getting more specific, looking at rising pressure, we have rising pressure stretching all the way from eastern New Mexico, across the Texas Panhandle, across Oklahoma, Nebraska, Kansas, up into the Dakotas, and then into Kentucky and all of the Ohio Valley, Illinois, Indiana, and then up the Mississippi Valley from Missouri through Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. To the east, we have falling pressure ahead of the frontal system, again stretching all the way from Harrisburg down to Tallahassee, but the most significant falling pressure really along the eastern Carolinas into eastern Virginia, Maryland, and New Jersey. But overall, everywhere from the Appalachians east all the way across New England, falling pressure. Looking at temperature change, you can see that brutal cold of winter coming back in, trying to push down the plains into the Ohio Valley, and it'll make its way all the way to the east by Thursday. But for Wednesday, the thrust of the coldest air is right there in the Ohio Valley, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan. Brr. Looking at dew point temperature change, and this map is very interesting, especially to weather people. You can see the falling dew points up in the plains with the cold air coming in. You see the rising dew points here on the warm side of the frontal systems. But the most interesting aspect is right here in West Texas, where you can see falling dew points, rising dew points, literally striding Amarillo. I always look for some kind of activity happening when I see that kind of impact. Looking at the measure of oxygen availability in the atmosphere, or what I call POI, the Peterlin Oxy Weather Index, you can see we have a risk of migraine here in the Pacific Northwest, Vancouver, across the northwestern portions of Washington. Interesting, right in the middle of all of the rest of the mess in terms of asthma and arthritis, we have a risk of migraine up and down the state of Florida. But the big risk of migraine is here in the heartland, up and down the plains, across Kentucky and the Ohio Valley, all the way through the Michigan and Great Lakes states. But the heart of this, of course, is in that Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, Iowa, upstate Great Lakes area, and that is the biggest risk of migraine, the most elevated risk of migraine for Wednesday. Looking at asthma and arthritis, we have that risk of asthma and arthritis on Wednesday from southern Texas, across the boot of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, up the Carolinas, all the way to New Jersey, Long Island, and then up in through New England. Very, very interesting day, active day for Wednesday, and the beginning again of a new surge of winter. Thanks for visiting the patient and weather. If you hurt, let us know where you're located.